All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, brothers and sisters all over the world. The name of this channel is The African Times, and I'm Thomas. All right, everybody, I'm going to jump right in. This is kind of a different video. You see the title. Uh, should you tell the truth? Should you lie? Are there good times to lie? Sometimes you gotta lie. Sometimes you gotta tell people a flat out lie to make them happy. It's the only way to do it. Some people only want to lie to make them happy. Some people tell you, "No, if you really love me, lie to me." Well, okay. So what I'm here, I'm just going to talk for a few minutes, and I want you to pay attention. I'm going to talk for a few minutes because I really want you to tell me, sisters and brothers, when you're in a relationship, which would you rather have? Do you want to be lied to if your mate did something, and and let's just cut to the chase. Let's just cut to the chase. If your mate, if your mate was with somebody else, you want them to lie to you. In other words, you catch them, right? You catch them. Uh, do you want them to just come and say, "Hey, baby"? If it's, for example, if your woman, sister, you catch your brother and he was with another woman, do you want him to come to you and say, "No, I didn't do that"? Even though you know you got this, I'm talking about you, sister, you got this deep amount of suspicions, evidence, you have enough, what you have in your mind is proof. You know this brother did this. Do you want him to lie to you? Or do you want him to tell the truth? And if he tells the truth, will it make it better for you? And let me tell you what I mean. Let's give you an example. So, okay, you know that the brother was with another woman, and uh, he comes to you and he says, "No, no, I wasn't. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I wasn't with her." And you tell him, "No, yes, you were." And y'all arguing, and arguing. And y'all been together for years, y'all. And then you tell him, "Well, all you have to do, just tell me the truth. That's all I want to know. I just want to know the truth." Okay. Now you tell him that. And then he goes, "Okay, all right, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I did it. I was with another woman." Okay. All right. Now he tells you, and you told him all you wanted to know. You wanted to know the truth. At that point, is it better for you? Do you feel better knowing? Do you feel better knowing that he told you the truth? Okay. Now, here's the thing. Would you prefer, and y'all put this in the comments, this is very important. I'm going to tell you why in a little while. You put this in the comments and you tell me, would you prefer him to just tell you the truth in the beginning? In other words, don't lie first. Just come to you and tell you, you say, "Hey, look, I saw you, somebody told me you were with so and so and you guys were together. Did you do it?" Would you rather him say, "Yeah, yep, I did. I did. I'm sorry. I love you. I love you. I'm with you. And I still want to be with you, but I did do it. I'm sorry." Would you rather have that, or would you rather have him lie? Now, here's here's why, and I don't want to only leave this to an example of where uh, a man has been with another woman, because women do it too. Now, I saw a video, kind of how this came up. I saw a video where this lady was talking first, and she was saying brothers are tripping because there are many sisters. They find out that their brother was with another woman, and they stay with him. And when she said, this is her talking, and she said, "Well, we stay with you all the time. So why is it that if we end up doing it, then you just get out of your mind, go crazy, and now you want to leave us?" And she posed that, she put it that way. And then the brother who was doing the video, because he was playing her video, he comes on and then he says, "Well, fellas, let me tell you something. If a woman, she sleeps with another man on you, she ain't no good. You can't trust her. And all men should know that. It's just the way it is. The woman is no good." Now, Now, I don't know. Can you hear that? Can you hear what he said and what she said? Now, that made me do this video to ask you, uh, which would you prefer? In my lifetime, I've had women, this is before I was married, I've had women where, we were doing that thing, boyfriend, girlfriend, we get together, we're trying to work it out, trying to see if we could be together, and something happens. I've had it both ways. I have been with someone else, or she has been with someone else. It's just being real. I don't have time. Listen, I don't have time to be messing around with these discussions. And the reason is, we're taught, I've been taught, and you put it in the comments. I really need y'all to put it in the comments and let me know. Been taught that there are three things you don't talk about. You don't talk about politics, religion, and sex. You don't talk about those things. And that's very alarming to me. I'm old enough to know better now. There's no way in the world that you shouldn't be talking about those three things. Those are the very three things that govern your life. The sex deals with your relationship, your ability to be able to come together with the opposite sex, form a family, and raise children. If you can't do that successfully, that's the end of society. It's ridiculous to even think that you shouldn't be talking about that, and the complexity involved in it. You need to talk about it in every way. And certainly politics, oh my goodness, these people are governing our entire lives politically in all of the various areas that are involved in political organization, and they tell you don't talk about it. And they tell you don't talk about it. And then religion. Your entire life, for many of you, is based on a book that somebody gave you. You didn't write the book. It's been handed down from generation to generation, and you base your whole life on it. And they tell you don't talk about it. They tell you not to talk about it, but you go to this institution on Sunday and let somebody talk to you about it. Define it, describe it, interpret it, give it to you, and tell you to do what they tell you to do, because they have a better knowledge and understanding of you. And all three of those things go together to help tell you how to live a good life so that you can be successful in life. But again, you're told not to talk about it. Foolishness. Foolishness. All of this is a part of corrupting your mind in such a way that you are able to be manipulated and to be dominated. And there are three primary sources to get at you to do it. So I decided I'm going to have to talk about these things. Now, I gave you the example, the whole reason of the video, do you tell the truth, is because the end goal is to have unity. And we sometimes get it confused that unity is just between man and a woman, but it's not. It's between all of us. Between you and me, between your mother and your brother, between your father, between friends. How can you come together and maintain the relationship even as you go through life's struggles and ups and downs and turmoil? So you have to talk to each other. You have to communicate. And what ends up happening during the course of your life is you're going to have some kind of conflict that's going to put you in a position where you have to tell a choice. You have to make a choice about whether you're going to lie or tell the truth. Now, this is a very sensitive topic because there are many women, you know, they're going to tell you they want to know the truth. That's what they're going to tell you. I've had it said to me, you want the truth. So for me, a lot of times I like telling the truth. There's sometimes I've not told the truth, of course, but I prefer telling the truth. So I'm looking at the person to see, are they sincere? Do they really want to know the truth? Because let me give you an example. For me as a man, if I've met any woman in my life and I've told her that I loved her, oh my God, that was sincere. That was an incredible amount of sincerity on my part. I don't even say that unless I mean it. So, because we're no longer together, me and that woman, I'm talking about 10 years ago, even when I was 6 years old, 7, 8 years old. If I tell you I love you, oh man, for me, it's forever. I'm gonna die with that love. I'm gonna have that love with you forever. Now, that doesn't mean we can't have a separation because things may not work out. It may not even be our fault. It could be just anything with life. We might have a separation, but the separation doesn't end my love for you. It just, I recognize that we're unable to continue in that type of relationship. Now, the nature of our relationship is different. It's not one where we're going to be together every day, we're going to be intimate. We're not going to do all of those things because the nature of the relationship has changed as a result of whatever circumstance arose. But the love and the commitment to unity with that person for me is always there. And for me, going through my life, that's how I've been able to love black people. Because it ain't always been no wonderful, wonderful journey with black people. It's rough because we got so many forces impacting our ability to be together, to have close, intimate, long lasting relationships. I'm not talking male female only, I'm talking all relationships, male to male, friends, not anything other than male to male friendship, brotherly love, not nothing else. Same way with sister to sister, y'all love each other. You supposed to be. So back to the question, should you lie? I'm only telling you this because as brothers and sisters, man and woman, we got to stay together. You get with a woman, you stay with her. It doesn't matter what. And a woman, you get with that man, y'all stay with him. As long as there's no physical abuse, you shouldn't be putting your hands on women. And women, you shouldn't be putting your hands on men. Now, I did a video and I didn't release it because I took a survey with some people and they were like, don't say that. Um, let me mention something to you guys here. My mother and I were very close. I told you in a few videos. My mother, early on in her life, her and my father, they stayed together until they died. Early on in her life, during her relationship with my dad, she and I, we would have conversations. We would talk for hours. And she told me, she said, listen, I'm going to tell you why I talk to you the way I do. And I was like, okay, yeah, I understand you love me. And she said, yeah, I do love you. But I want you to understand why I tell you these very personal, intimate things. And she did. She told me very, very personal, private things that most people won't talk about. They won't even even some people will not tell their child intimate things about the relationship between them and their husband. Like your child and your mother won't tell you what's going on between her and your father because they feel like that's personal. But my mother wasn't that way. She would explain everything to me. So she told me, she said, listen, the reason that I explain everything to you personally is because my life is being lived to make your life better. My life is being lived so that everything that I do, anything that I learn, anything that happens to me, I need to share with you so that you have a better chance at life than I did, so that you can have an opportunity, a reference source, a reference of information in case you encounter these situations. You'll have a reference point. You'll know what to do. And so my life is to educate you and to be here to give you all that information. So I share with you very, very personal things so that you can have a better shot at life. Now, I'm telling you that to give you an example of something. My mother, she's a strong, like incredibly strong woman. She stayed with my dad until death. Okay. She gave me an example of something. She said that um, she was never going to leave my dad, no matter what he did. Now, this is just an example. This is not anything that happened, but she was talking to me about her level of commitment to her husband, to the man she decided to spend the rest of her life with. She said, listen, Thomas, I love your father. And she told me I should get a woman that loves me. And she said, I love your father, so I'm going to be with him forever. and no woman can take him away from me. And I was like, whoa, whoa, you're very confident. And she was like, no, no, it's not that I'm confident. It's not that. It's just that, see, I love your father. I'm going to be with him forever. So if a woman came up in this house, me and that woman, we're going to have to be in this house together because I'm not leaving him. So we're going to have to work something out because I'm going to be with him forever. Now, I understand the moral of the story that she told me. She was letting me know, because she told me, find a woman that loves me. Because she said, that woman is, if you find a woman that loves you, she's going to be with you forever. She stayed with my father until she passed away. Okay? They had many, many, many fights and arguments. Sometimes I didn't even think they liked each other. But she loved him, and he took care of her. She took care of him, even amidst all the different turmoils. Now, I'm going to tell you a story because I told you no man should put their hands on a woman and no woman should put their hands on a man. Y'all supposed to be loving each other, no matter what. And an argument and a fight doesn't lead to hatred. It just means y'all got a disagreement. Now, she gave me another example about that. She said, listen, you and your wife, y'all going to have arguments. That doesn't mean anything. That's nothing. She said, you're going to have an argument, and the way that it works is you have the argument, and y'all could be, the argument may last 3 days. It may last 2 weeks. But that's okay. When you get up in the morning, even though you're mad at them, you making coffee or you making some food, you say, hey, look, I'm making this food. Do you want some of this? And they say, yeah, you make them the food, you go sit down. But you don't want to talk to them. You don't have to talk to them because you're still mad at them. You go in there and you do what you do, and they go do what they do because y'all still mad at each other. But you love each other. So you know this is just an argument. That's all that it is. And it's going to end. And when that's over, we're going to be back loving each other. And she told me, she said, some of the things you're going to argue about the same thing for years. For years. Years. Like, and she explained it. She said, well, you might have an argument over something that you both disagree. He wants to do it one way, you want to do it the other way. Okay. And y'all argue about it, but you realize they're not changing their position, you're not changing your position. So you shelve the argument and you move on. You recognize. Some people say agree to disagree. Yeah, that's basically it. But the love, though, it's just that issue. It has nothing to do with the love and the commitment to one another. Now, those things stuck with me. I remember, I told you about putting your hands on a woman. Don't do that. Don't put your hands on a woman. You don't need to do that. And y'all give this video to young people so they understand what they need to do in relationships to stay together. Because you have to stay together, particularly now. Economically in America, it's required. You're not going to survive by yourself. It's very difficult unless you make a lot of money. But together, y'all can put your money together. You can figure out a way to survive. So I remember being a kid. I don't remember if my sister was with me at the time, but I remember being a kid. And my mother and my father were in the back room. And I was in the front of the house. And I heard boom, 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 boom. I heard things. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on? The door was closed. So I was able to, the way this house was designed, I could look down the hallway and look at that door. And I was hearing all of this commotion. And I remember it just happened to be this way. I was looking down the hall and the door opened. And when the door opened, it was my dad. And he opened the door and he looked out and he told me, hey, everything is okay in here. There's nothing wrong. Everything is fine. Um, your mother, she and I were having a discussion, and she wants to. Now this is what he told me. She said she wants to leave. She doesn't want to talk anymore, but I want to talk. So that's what's happened. But everything is okay. Now, I don't I don't think there was like, it couldn't have been any violence because my mother came out shortly after that. And she came out And she did what she normally does when she came out. She would come out and she would go, like she'd come in the kitchen, and that's where our door was to go out. She would come in the kitchen and she would go sit out in the kitchen for a minute. And then after she would sit out in the kitchen, she would go sit in the car. She would go sit in the car. And that's what she did. She went, and I would look out the window and I would see her sitting out in the car. And she would just she would just be sitting in the car for hours. And I was very young at that time, so I never went out there. But as I got older, and this went on for years, where she would sit in the car. And remember, I told you when she came out, there was no physical abuse. There was nothing wrong. She didn't have any marks on her, nothing like that. She just, she'd go sit out in the car. And so as I got older, after years and years of living with my mother and father, when I got older, I became a teenager. I went out and I would see her sitting out in the car, and I would go talk to her. And we would just have these talks, and she would explain to me. That's how that conversation came up, where she was explaining to me that you're gonna have arguments, you're gonna have disagreements, but it is what it is. And so she explained. Sometimes she just comes sits in the car. She's not leaving. She's not going anywhere. She just That's her way to come and get away from the situation. Now him, he just likes to stay in the room. My dad, that's what he liked to do. He just liked to stay in the room. But I saw a tremendous amount of love between them. He took care of her, she took care of him, even amidst all of these arguments that they would have. So it gave me a reference point. It gave me an idea of what kind of things I would face. So in my relationships, I would have arguments just like anybody else. We got disagreements. But I always knew, no matter what woman it was that I was with, that it's just an argument. We're going to be together. We're going to stay together. That's the same kind of relationship with this love for black people. Because I get some of your comments. A lady told me I look like a great grandfather. Oh, all right. So listen, I told you this is about truth and should you lie. So let me tell you the other part that she told me about that. I told you that her and my father, they were together till death, and she told me no matter what happens, no matter what my dad did, uh, no matter what they did, they were going to be together. She was going to be with him. And he never left her. He never did. He never left her. In fact, I remember him coming home every day. It's a credit to him. There was only one day in all of my years living with him as a child that I remembered where he didn't come home. And he called me. He called me. And he said he was running a little late. Because he's clockwork. He came home every day around the same time. He said he was running a little late, and then he came home. But I was asleep, so I don't really know if he came home. but he came home. I believe he came. I know he was there when I got up in the morning. But I'm telling you this about the lying because remember I told you my mother told me that she's sharing everything with me so that I would know how to live and how my life could be better. But this was the most important thing I think that she said to me about the truth and about being together with a woman. And I try to live by this. I tried to live by this ever since she told me. But it was difficult. Uh, I'll tell you why it's difficult after I tell you the story. Well, she told me that they were married. The first 5 years of the marriage was the worst. It was the worst. She said it was. She was ready to leave. He was ready to leave. They were going to get a divorce. She said it was just horrible. And I was like, well, why? Why? Now remember, back then there were no cell phones. There were no cell phones. None of that back then. They they had the regular phone where if you left the house, that was it. Nobody can call you. You left the house. You going where you going. They want to talk to you. They're gonna have to call you from a payphone, or they're gonna have to come back. So she was telling me that when the first 5 years of their marriage, when they got married, uh, my mother was a social person. She's a girl. I mean, she's very young. She got married at 24. So her sisters, she had a lot of sisters, and she would go with them. She'd go visit her sisters, and she had some girlfriends in the neighborhood that she'd go visit. Now she had me, and she had a couple kids, so sometimes she would leave us there with my dad. Now here's her example, and remember I'm talking about truth. This is an example of something that was happening in the first 5 years of their marriage. She would tell my dad she was going to visit, say, maybe her sister. Well, when she goes to visit her sister, all the girls would come and they would meet over there and they'd say, okay, y'all, let's go for it. We're going to go over such and such. They go over such and such house. So they would get together and they would leave from there. She would leave my dad the number to the sister's house or wherever she was going. But once they got there and they all decided to go someplace else, she was caught up in the moment. She was with her girlfriend. They were all having fun. She wasn't thinking about anything. So if my dad called there, which he did, he would call there to check in, say, how you doing? Is everything cool? Whatever. Nobody answered the phone. So then when she would come back, arguments, fights. Well, where you going? What you? I called you. Were you really there? All this. No trust issues. Now this is normal. Listen, he is not doing anything. He was not doing anything nobody else would do. You have trust issues. Back then, it was rough. And it's even rough even with these cell phones because you can call and contact people right away. And then if they don't answer, hey, why didn't you answer? Hey, I called, the phone rang, whatever. All right. Now remember, I'm talking about truth here. Do you tell the truth? So she would tell him, no, listen, this is what's happening. But it became unbearable for them because it repeated and repeated and repeated. And then if he was late for work, coming home from work, because he came home like clockwork, if he was late for work, let's say he wanted to stop, he had a friend, a friend that he would visit, a guy. I met the guy. They were lifelong friends. If he wanted to go visit that guy, and he would tell my mother the same situation. I'm over here at this dude's house, you know, and he'd be there if he comes back or whatever. She can't get in touch with him. So then now, well, they have the argument. Hey, look, you getting upset with me, but you're doing it over here. Blah blah blah. Okay. Now remember, I'm talking about truth here. So what she told me, she said, so the first 5 years we were gonna break up. They were gonna get a divorce. Now I'm sharing this very personal story with you because I have the same philosophy she gave me. It's only extended. I'm going to share these stories with my children, so my children have an understanding. I'm sharing it with you because as black people, we're supposed to use all of our resources to figure out how to live and stay together and survive and be a family. And it's not just your intimate family, your immediate family, your wife, husband, daughter, son. No, we all are family. So I'm sharing this with you. Hopefully that it helps somebody, just like my mother was trying to help me, and it did help me. So back to the story, just to let you know. As she was telling me, she said it got so unbearable the first 5 years they were gonna break up. They were gonna get a divorce, and so they decided. My mother and father, they decided that they had a decision to make. Are they going to stay together or are they going to not? So she said what they did, he took off a week of work, maybe even two. And they went to this very nice, at the time, it still is a hotel, I think. They went to this very nice, back then it was new. It was an expensive hotel in downtown Detroit. You guys know, many of you can look it up. It's now General Motors World Headquarters, but back then it was called the Renaissance Center. So they went there, and this is her telling me the story. They went there, and they told each other no matter what happens, they're going to check into this hotel, they're going to stay in that hotel, and they're going to tell each other the truth about everything, any and everything in their lives they feel. And they're not leaving that hotel until they come up with a decision on whether or not they're going to stay together and be together for the rest of their lives. And she said they were very, very serious about it. and that if the decision was to be together and to stay together, then no matter what happens in their lives, they were going to stay together. This is what she told me. Now, this next part I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you because my mother, she's no longer here. She's no longer here. So there's no harm for her. You don't know who my father is. So I'm sharing this with you, okay? So she told me that during the conversation in the hotel, they told each other the truth. Now, at this point, they had been together. She was like 29, 30 years old. I think he might have been 34, 35, 33, something like that. I think 34. They told each other the truth. The open, honest, uh, forget the fear, forget the afraid, nothing. We're going to tell each other the truth. And she told me they both admitted that they had had infidelity in their relationship. This is what she told me. They had infidelity in their relationship. They talked about it, why they thought it happened. She said, they cried together. You know, and they made a decision that they loved each other. And no matter what had happened prior to that day, that they told each other, opened up, shared each other, no matter what happened, they made the decision that they were going to stay together and be together for the rest of their lives. No matter what. And no matter what went on in the future, they were going to be together because they loved each other and they were going to live their lives together. And whatever life had in store for them, they were going to hit that head on, dead on together. That's what this woman and this man did. Now, at that time, I think I might have been 10 or 11. Right? I didn't know any of that was going on between them. I had no idea. I'm telling you that because they stayed together until death. And now it should make sense to you, that story that I told you. She told me that it don't matter. She ain't worried about no other woman because no woman can't take them away. They had been married. I think when she was telling me that, they probably had been married 20 years, 25 years maybe, and yeah, you know, she she stayed with him and he stayed with her. I don't know if they had other situations, but whatever happened in their life, they were together and they was happy. They had come to an understanding. They told each other the truth. That's why I'm telling you. Is it better to tell the truth or is it better to lie? Which one do you want? But if you want the truth, be prepared for it. Because the truth is going to hurt a lot of people. And that's why I'm talking to you about this. Even me, there are things that I'm going to tell you. I'm getting ready to do some serious videos about some things. You don't have to agree with me. But I'm going to tell you one thing about the truth. And this is my truth. But we all have a shared truth that's happening, whether we can see it or not. It's happening to all of us as black people. You know, it's a shared truth. Um, we all are experiencing the same situation because there are a group of people in charge of this world. And they're fighting amongst themselves right now to try to stay in charge of the world. And the people that they have decided were at the bottom of their world order is me and you. And people like me and you in this spectrum of white to dark. That they decided white would be like this background you see right here, that white would be at the top and have the benefits and the wealth, and then down at the bottom, the darker your skin were, the less benefits and wealth you would have. And also, even for their own whites, included in that color spectrum was a class spectrum. Lord serf, look it up if you don't know this, their economic system before. Master slave, and then employer and employee. The relationship hasn't changed. Nothing has changed, just the words. Just like killed, no, unalived. Same thing. And Lord serf, master slave, employer employee, king subject, president subject, or president citizen. Same. Do you understand? Okay, so you tell me at the end of this, which one do you want? You want the truth? Would you prefer the truth? Or would you prefer to be lied to? Which one would you prefer? Y'all let me know in the comments, all right? Uhuru, uhuru.